All right. Welcome everyone to the City Council meeting for, can I have quiet please? Welcome everybody to the City Council meeting for June 12th, 2023. If I get a roll call please, Madam Clerk, to establish a quorum.
Melissa Green.
Here.
Steve Holofield.
Here.
Harry Meyer.
Here.
Autumn Slane.
She's here.
Yeah, she waved.
David Avanzino.
Present.
Terry McClung.
I'm here.
All right, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first portion of the meeting tonight is holding a public hearing vacating a portion of Main Avenue and Fuller Street. Do we have anybody here who'd like to speak for or against this vacation? Would you please come up to the microphone?
I have a couple written first.
Okay. We'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kathy Harrison. I live at 107 Breezy Point.
You might need to speak in the microphone a little bit more. Pull it closer to you.
Can you hear it? Is that weird? Okay. I'm Kathy Harrison. I live at 107 Breezy Point. And the vacating of the street and the alleyways and stuff, I noticed that the lines had been moved on the map so that it didn't actually touch my property, so I'm not an adjoining or abutting property owner, although the alleyway does touch my property. And, you know, legally, yeah, I could say it's not a good idea. I didn't know about it until I got called by Ida. She called me Friday afternoon and let me know this was going on. And of course, I didn't see it in the newspaper because it was in the Carroll County News, which I don't yet and haven't bought. But I know that when our Public Works Director is opposed to vacating a street due to the utility conflicts, his knowledge about what conflicts there are and about how it would be detrimental to any further, building or even selling of lots up there. The city couldn't access any of those lots because they would be belonging to someone else. I realized that alleyways were already vacated last year in April of 2022, and I feel like we don't need to be giving up anything else where we might have future development, and it would be extremely hard simply because the city would no longer have access to any of it. Thank you.
All right, please come to the microphone. And state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is John Williams. I have property at 127 Breezy, which is right across the street. And I just want to give you a little background quickly. My wife and I came to town a couple of years ago and we bought the property that used to be owned by Howard Weems. And we started recycling the variety of materials that were lost in the property. We were trying to restore it. And like many people here, the main thing that drew us to Eureka Springs is the commitment to the historic preservation and the green space. So we're most interested in developing that property into an ecotourism campground that's low impact. And to that end, we've donated the property to a conservation trust, and 80% of it is now permanently reserved for animals, wildlife, vegetation, that sort of thing, with low impact use, which would only be hiking, biking, and that sort of thing. And we're going to have raised platform eco camping so that you're not disturbing the animals. And right now we have just an amazing array of wildlife already. The property is only 55 acres, but it's got so many plants and animals. It's essentially a wilderness that replicates the beauty of Northwest Arkansas, and we absolutely love it. So we want to share that with other people. We want to make sure there's access. We have had some problem. The road that goes to it is a small one-lane road, and it's really not suitable for much than just incidental traffic. It's certainly not enough for 50 or 60 cars coming to an event. And to that end, we have looked at the roads that are existing that have been in place for, over 100 years, which would be Maine and Fuller and Adams and Oregon. And we have met with staff numerous times to make sure they would always stay open before we purchase the property. We were assured by Ann, the earlier secretary, that it was very difficult to vacate the roads. We've been assured by, Dwayne Allen. Matter of fact, we have a letter from him saying that Fuller has to remain open. We also have a mediation that we entered with the present applicant because we were having some conflicts about the road right in front of our house to make sure that stayed open as well. And in that mediation, all parties agreed that neither side would vacate any roads in this area. So I have those right here. If I guess I could give them to Ida, and you could, if you want to give them to the council people. These items in the mediation agreement are in here. And also have pictures of some of our work on the house. And you guys can look, y'all can look through those as you want. But if you don't mind, I'll just like to read the very last part of our letter here. And I respectfully request that the council vote not to donate these roads to a private investor. After more than a century, they would suddenly be gone forever. At a minimum, please advise the applicant to meet with her neighbors and address their concerns about her existing CUP, the large events, the parking, the open fires, and other before considering more variances, special permissions, and conditional use permits, and this requested gift of public property be used for a private business. Finally, if the large gatherings continue and applicant proceeds and expands her wedding and events business, then an alternate access is needed. And we definitely need another way into that property. You're completely trapped, and it's a one-way in and out. So if 50 cars were up there at an event, everybody would be trapped in the event of a fire. So note that Breezy is a narrow one-lane road. It's not designed for heavy traffic with up to 50 cars. There's no way to escape.
We've got 3 minutes here.
Okay,
wrap it up.
One final line. Our house burned to the ground last year. Had there been a large event, dozens of people and cars would have been trapped on top of the hill. Fortunately, no one was, but an escape route is needed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next. Yes, sir.
Mayor. My name is Matt Bishop. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I didn't know if you would call me up at the time or if you'd want to address questions at that time, but I can address things in public comment if you'd prefer. It's really up.
We'll take it in later on.
You'll take it further on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else, public comments?
Hope that was a hearing.
If there's not, we have some items to be read.
Dear City Council, I am the executor for the irrevocable trust for John Mitchell and a recipient of a 200-foot notice on this vacation. I am opposed to vacating Fuller Street as it is the easiest access to lots 5 and 6, block 58, which are in the trust. This is a hilly, wooded hillside, and any other access would be more difficult. Thank you for your service to our city. Sincerely, Gwen Bennett.
Mr. Meyer, did you say you had something to read?
I thought we were doing the hearing.
No, this is the public hearing.
Okay, yeah.
It's coming up later on. Okay. Does anybody else from the public like to make a comment before we close the public? All right, hearing none, then I call the public hearing to a close, and we will continue on with our regular agenda. Get a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I move we approve the agenda as stated here.
Second. All right. Any additions or anything? Yes, ma'am.
Can we, in new business, can we move number 4 up to number 1, please?
Under new business?
Yes,
Why?
just because there's a lot of people here.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I asked to move number 4 up to number 1.
To your face, talk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you second that?
No, I just don't understand what she said because
Oh.
she wasn't speaking into the microphone.
Do you understand now?
All right, do I have a second? Okay, hearing none, motion is denied. Anybody else on the agenda? All right, get a motion to approve the agenda as submitted. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Get a motion to approve the minutes for May 22nd.
Motion to approve the minutes from May 22nd, 2023.
Second.
Is that Mr. Holyfield?
Avanzino.
Mr. Avanzino? Okay. Any corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this brings us up to some of our commissions. We do have some vacancies in here, so if anybody in the public or out in TV land would like to apply, we have a position in the Planning Commission that we need someone. We also have a couple of positions in the CAPC, also a couple of positions in the hospital. And for tonight, we also are listening or have Beth Geltner being nominated for a position in Parks. I think her nomination was submitted to y'all last time.
Yeah.
So if I get a motion,
I make a motion to accept Beth Gildner as new commissioner on Parks.
I'll second.
and Mr. Hopefield made the motion, and Mr. Myers seconded. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That brings us up to our new Board of Appeals. In your packet, I've kind of listed 5. Our new revised ordinance states that we need to have 5 people involved with the practice of building and construction. For your consideration, I would like to nominate Bill Hathaway, who's a licensed registered structural engineer, been practicing over 50 years. He lives at Holiday Island. Mickey Feinfield is a licensed architect in Arkansas and been practicing since 1985. He also lives at Holiday Island. David Williamson, who's a licensed architect with over 25 years of experience, lives here in Eureka Springs. Wes Beaver, who's a licensed electrician with Old Town Electric, has over 20 years experience as a licensed electrician, lives in Eureka Springs. And Steve Kubeka, who is a licensed general contractor with 20 years experience, who lives out at Bush. Steve's been around the Eureka Springs area for about 5 years. The others have been here for several years. So, yes, sir, Mr. McClung.
I think it's great, Mr. Mayor, that you've been able to get these guys to come together and sit on this. Really pretty short notice.
Yes.
And you know, I know several of them and the qualifications are definitely there. And I make a motion we approve your recommendation.
Second.
All right, any further comments from anyone? Hearing none, all in favor of these applicants for the Board of Appeals, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all very much. This is an important board, and I will notify them immediately. Thank you. That brings us up to public comments. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. If you have something you need to read, Madam Clerk?
Yep.
All right, before we get going, the clerk's going to read some letters that we received.
This one's from Ethan Avanzino, 216 West Van Buren. A conditional use permit is a formal request seeking permission to utilize a property in a manner that deviates from its designated zoning regulations. It serves as a mechanism to grant exceptions for activities or developments that are not typically permitted under the existing zoning guidelines. However, it is crucial to note that the acquisition of a conditional use permit is not constitutionally protected, unlike the right to own a gun, which is enshrined as a constitutional right. While individuals possess the constitutional right to own firearms, the same cannot be said for receiving a conditional use permit. These are separate matters governed by different legal frameworks. It is essential not to conflate the two and understand the distinctions between them. It is also crucial to recognize this is a straw man argument meant to divert attention from the court issue at hand, which is the evaluation and decision on the conditional use permit itself. The focus of the City Council needs to remain squarely on assessing the permit application based on merits, adherence to zoning regulations, and the best interests of the community. Moreover, it is imperative to recognize that the City Council members are elected to represent and serve their constituents' interests. And they hold a responsibility to make decisions that align with the needs and aspirations of the community they represent. This due Duty extends beyond personal interests, including a desire to avoid lawsuits. City council members should prioritize the welfare of their constituents and make decisions based on the best interests of the community as a whole. In addition, it is important to note that any potential lawsuit against the city would pertain solely to the conditional use permit and not to gun ownership rights. Do not be swayed or intimidated by the posturing done by an individual and their lawyer in this context. Furthermore, it is essential to acknowledge the audacity displayed by creating signs and advertisements prior to obtaining approval for the conditional use permit. Such actions demonstrate a lack of respect for the established process and disregard for the concerns of all residents within the city. When considering the conditional use permit application for Eureka Gun and Pawn, I ask members of City Council to evaluate the proposal on its merits and its alignment with the city's zoning regulations and community interests. Taking all relevant factors into account, it is appropriate to exercise caution and prudence when deciding on this permit. Consequently, I encourage council to vote against the conditional use permit for Eureka Gun and Pawn. Ethan Avanzino.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Speak
Okay.
in the microphone, see if you can.
I'll slow down. I have had my retail business in Eureka Springs 15 years now. I have filed for a business license before I unlocked the door to the public and applied to HDC to approve the design for my sign before I called to have it constructed and hung. I often wonder if the type of new business opening is determined by the kind of customers coming to town, or if the type of customer coming is attracted to what types of business we offer. Either way, it has become apparent to me that the demographic is no longer balanced. New businesses gear themselves more towards inexpensive goods, foods, and services, and further from the locally produced products, art, and finer dining that gave us the reputation of being different, quirky, and above all, authentic. I do not agree with the owner of Eureka Gun and Pawn that our residents are so poor that they cannot drive to Berryville to pawn something for money. I just don't believe in the destitute picture he is painting of our community. Times are hard for many folks, but I just don't feel the local pawn trade is what's going to save them. I also believe the majority of our residents, as well as visitors, do not want to see a pawn and gun business open here. I don't believe a town as small as ours needs a pawn and gun shop. And I, for one, moved here to get away from the kind of town that thrived on businesses like this. Finally, gun culture is a national problem. America exceeds any other country in the world in annual gun deaths, mainly because so many guns are present. I am sad and tired of hearing about another mass shooting every week and feeling helpless to do anything about it. Standing up to a gun trade business in my town and letting my council know my feelings is about the only thing I can do to honor any victim of a gun crime, past or future. As the law directs, residents near this proposed business were notified and allowed to state their concern about this business near their homes and families. The Planning Commission heard them and voted accordingly to overturn their decision. Now is to favor money and a business plan that could change the face of our town over quality of life and public safety. I ask you to uphold the Planning Commission's decision to deny this conditional use permit. Mark Hughes. Dear council member, bars on a window in a shopping center is not a good look for a historic Victorian tourist town. It demeans the ambiance of Eureka Springs. Pawn shops do not have the best reputation. What is to stop someone from breaking in and stealing guns? It happened in Fort Smith recently. If you care about welfare of our town, please do not allow Keeling Grub to sell guns, and that sign should be changed also. Sincerely, Kathy Atwood.
All right, we'll take comments from the public for public comments.
Hello again. This issue, like myself, is not going away. If I have to remind you every time I come to a meeting, it's been 31 years since it was mandated in the United States. Okay, without getting emotional, I have a little outline. Number one, move the 2 parking spaces on Mountain Street. And I don't know if you've looked at them, but it's crazy. I think it's more like a 45-degree angle. It's like this instead of this. Move those 2, one in front of Sweet Springs and one in front of the post office. They're unfit for handicap space. That takes a can of paint. You could do it in a day, and it would state that you are trying. Number 2, seriously consider a second level for a unisex handicap bathroom at Pendergrass Corner. It's going to have to happen eventually. Unisex, according to the handbook, is okay. Just nudge it right in there. You got to do it somewhere. You really do. I mean, if one of you got in a wheelchair for a day and went out and tried to do anything, you couldn't. Not at all. My third point, all new businesses need to be ADA compliant. Non-historic businesses need to be notified that this is the direction the city intends to go in. Example, Cafe Amore. I know they're trying because I went to the spot, talked to Tom Wicker. Are you going to be ADA compliant? He's done it. He knows the specs. These people have to be notified. All the restaurants, I could name them and then, they'd end up being mad at me, but it has to happen. 31 years overdue. It's a simple thing. Every city in the United States has to do it. And it's a civil rights violation. Thank you. I'll keep coming back every meeting.
Good evening. My name is Ann Armstrong, and I'm here to speak a bit about the application to market firearms in the city limits. Unlike other recent governmental decisions to impose short-sighted ideas this evening, you have an opportunity to make a wise, far-sighted decision.
And you need to bring the microphone closer or speak into it. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, is that better? Oh, I can hear it more clearly. This evening, there's an opportunity to make a wise, far-sighted choice to say no to any business marketing firearms within this city. ABC News, May 8th, over a month ago, the U.S. has faced at least 202 mass shootings so far this year. That is according to the Gun Violence Archive. So even today, over a month after that article, there have been more than there have been more mass shootings than days in a year. Week before last, First Choice Pawn, Fort Smith, Arkansas, with a surveillance system, with bars on the doors, with cameras, there was a successful smash and grab of a firearms cache, and according to the report, 40 seconds, start to finish. Where are those weapons? We don't know. But we can be sure that if they had not been available, they would not have been stolen from that store. When we elected you, we entrusted you with this community's health and safety. First and foremost, what is the wise decision on this application? I thank you for voting no on this and any other application to market firearms within the city limits, and I personally thank you for your service. Good evening.
My name's Karen Lindblad. I live at 17 Vaughn Street, and I've lived in Eureka Springs since 1970, minus 5.5 years away. I was glad to see you finally had a public hearing at the beginning of this meeting, but I will say to you, this mayor and council have committed $250,000 to building a roundabout at 62 and 23, which will put our school children in school buses without seatbelts at great risk of serious accidents in traffic with semis, delivery trucks, and other motor vehicles. Many cities have removed roundabouts because of too many serious accidents, and one was removed apparently in Bentonville. You committed this money without a public hearing to see if this is what the citizens wanted or if this is the way citizens wanted their money spent. Meanwhile, the city's infrastructure is falling apart, the sewer system leaks, and there are citizens who have been waiting for years to get hooked up to it. Now you are considering raising our water rates when we have water pipes that leak so badly that citizens will be paying for all the water from Beaver Lake, but receiving about 50% of that water in our homes, and small users will continue to pay much higher rates than the big users. Has there been a public hearing scheduled for this issue? I hope so. Are there many citizens who don't want a gun shop in town? Will there be a public hearing for this? You have raised the mayor's salary to $48,000 a year, the most a mayor has ever been paid here. When council did this, it said that the city had a surplus. Did council ask if this is the way citizens wanted the surplus spent? No. Council members are making more per meeting than ever before. Were the citizens asked if this is the way they wanted their money spent? No. We citizens get only 3 minutes per meeting to express ourselves on important issues. This is not enough time. If this mayor and council do not have the time or interest to find out through public hearings what taxpayers who pay their salaries want on issues that are important to them, I suggest that they resign and let those who have both interest and time to do so take their place. The citizens of Eureka Springs deserve more than this. Really, we do deserve more than this. And that you pledge that money for that roundabout without any public hearing should be considered pretty criminal. It's a lot of money. $250,000 could have fixed our streets and done all kinds of other things here. And I'm really ashamed that you all have done this, and I hope it doesn't go through.
Good evening. I'm Bill Billings. I live on Pivot Rock Road, number 17. Concerning the family with the application for the pawn and gun shop, I've done business with this family for several years. They're upstanding. No matter what your thoughts are on firearms, you need to be fair to anybody that wants a business within reason. Thank you.
I'm Steve Kilbrew. I live at 266 Spring Street. According to some of these others, I'm sort of a new resident. I've only been here 2.5 years, but prior to moving here, I visited at least 2 or 3 weeks for 8 years prior to the move. I'm here about the pawn and gun shop. While I don't like to tell somebody what to do with their property or to make it more difficult someone to do business, I moved here from Texas. I moved here to get away from guns. I've had guns pulled on me personally 3 times in my life. It doesn't feel good. There's a lot of rhetoric that says the only good way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. That's BS. I'm sorry. I've had guns pulled on me on the freeway, pointed at my face. Where's the good guy? Not around. I really want to discourage this approval of the CUP. I think it's a bad direction from our city. I think it's a bad direction for our tourists. I walk through downtown every morning and I talk to our tourists. They ask questions even before 8 o'clock, and they ask, where can I get breakfast before 8 o'clock? Where's a good place to shop? Where's a good place to stay? What restaurants do you like? What happens when a quarter won't go into the parking meter? And how much is the fine? I've never once been asked, where can I buy a gun? And I appreciate that. I'm part of a minority community here, and I feel safe here. I moved here because I feel safe here. I don't want to feel unsafe. I don't want to have to pack my gun again like I did in Texas. I really appreciate this town. I love this town. I want to die here. I'm almost 62, so I'm getting closer to the end. But I appreciate the direction of the city, how the city takes care of those of us that are minorities. And please make the right decision. Don't let this go down the same road that Austin, Texas did, where it became unsafe. Stop this now, and we don't have to worry about our futures. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good evening. I'm Robert Schmidt. I'm the owner of Edelweiss Inn at 62 Highway East. I'm here to oppose your increase of the water bill by the proposed 35%, but what Public Works proposed. The city is making a surplus, apparently, and we have money to pay higher salaries for everybody, but we don't have the money to invest in our infrastructure. Apparently, according to City Works, we're losing 60% of the water or more, which we're buying from Carol Boone Water Plant. And the only solution what this city council is having is just increasing our rate. City, we should invest into our infrastructure and repair our old water lines, sewer lines. One thing I wanted to point out, tourism is down. You might not think about that right now, but we're not doing fine. I mean, we're just getting by. And this year will be a challenge. We have been spoiled the last 2 years by COVID and the COVID situation and the COVID fear of all the people who are not traveling abroad. Now they're not traveling domestic as much as they did the last 2 years. And we will see that at the end of the year. We have lost businesses like Swiss Ozark Inn, for example, which is a good way. They turned the property into a lodging property or a permanent long-term residential. And we needed those spaces for workers. And the Days Inn is bankrupt. And Eureka Inn is only halfway open. So it's like, well, it's now the other place. Huh? And so everybody else should do fine. We should have no empty rooms. But I see Memorial Day weekends and we don't have enough people to fill our rooms. And that's strange. I've lived here since 2009 and Memorial Day weekends have been always a blast. And including the Sunday, not just the Saturday. And this year it was not. So room price go up and that turns people away. The city needs to invest into the infrastructure, and that has been neglected for years. I can't repeat that enough. And if commercials are going bankrupt, then there's no livelihood, and all the people who think they can live here, they will no longer have a living. Less businesses means less jobs, and also less tax income for the future. I saw the meeting from CAPC and from April, and it said 9 businesses were delinquent in paying their CAPC taxes. That is not normal. We need repairs and not just Band-Aids. And and you're on YouTube, on your YouTube channel, all the city council meetings from 2022 are not there. And also the one from April is not there. I don't know why.
I'm Linda McBride, 264 Spring Street, and before my time starts, I would like to say that we can't hear anything out here that the council is saying. We missed maybe if the city clerk would read the letters from here or when you got up here, but we heard none of that, and the first that we hear is the first lady that started speaking. It's terribly difficult. So now you can start my time.
Can people hear Linda right now?
Yeah, we can hear that, but y'all we hear not at all. Okay. And we didn't hear any of the letters. I mean, you hear jibber jabber, but we don't hear clearly. Anyway, now you can start my time. The appeal of the CUP for the gun and pawn shop issue before the City Council is a zoning issue, plain and simple. The issue, even though word got to the Municipal League that we were trying to ban assault rifles, that's not true. The property located at 3022 East Van Buren is zoned commercial, and for a pawn shop to be located there, a conditional use permit is required. That's a zoning law. No one has a constitutional right. We keep hearing that. They've got a constitutional right, but they don't have a constitutional right to open a business. No one does. To build a house and a duplex, whatever. You have to be zoned correctly. The owner of the proposed pawn shop requested a CUP from the Eureka Springs Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did their homework. They held a public hearing, and after due diligence, they denied the CUP. The owner has filed an appeal between y'all in front of y'all tonight with the City Council, and he's got every right to do so by law. If his request for a CUP tonight, not only has an option, if it fails, to take it to Circuit Court, or he can have his pawn shop and gun shop outside the city limits, and it'll be a lot cheaper, a lot less time than taking it to court. But that's his choice. Now, if at any time in Eureka's history they had turned down, given a pawn shop, then you got a problem if you deny him one. But that's never happened. Eureka is a town of 2,000 citizens, give or take a few. We're a tourist town, but we are also a town with citizens who live here full time. You as elected leaders serve both when our city government, the tourists and us, But when you start leaning towards only governing to the tourist in the business sector, not full-time residents, we are not only losing the uniqueness of Eureka Springs, but our elected officials are not representing the citizens who elected them. Enforcing code is one of the primary tools the city has implementing long-term vision for Eureka Springs. A direct result of this is the residents' quality of life is directly tied to a city's decision to enforce its code. Zoning laws and enforcement affects residents of Eureka Springs. We live with the zoning laws that y'all pass. We abide by them. Visitors to Eureka don't care about our zoning. I'll get through. If you vote for the CUP because you don't want to be sued, then you are cheating the people. Let me note again, the Planning Commission did their homework, held a public hearing, and after due diligence denied the CUP. Please vote against it. Thank you for your time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I had a good spot here. First of all...
Name and address.
Pardon me?
Name and address.
Oh, my name is Penelope Walker. I'm at 345 Dairy Hollow Road, Eureka Springs. First of all, I would like to comment real quick on the guns. I do know the ratio of children that die from guns, but more children die from guns from any disease, any cancer, or any kind of horrible accidents. So I am totally against guns in our town. Even with the zoning code and all of that, I know they've done all that. And they're going to try and get it again through you. And I hope you decide not to do anything like that, because we are a family-friendly town. And there's lots of young people moving here and living here that have kids. And we want to keep that going. I'd also like to comment on the water usage. I'm going to reach in here and get 6 months worth. It goes up and down by $20 or $30 for the last 6 months. The last one had let me look at it here real quick. It was actually a sanitation tax that was $13.91. That was for June, that was $46.05. For May, it was $73.57. This is mine. And then for April, it was $60.89, and then it was in $35.16. This goes going up, and this is February, and it is $47.78, and then I have $47.78. So I can't even understand it half the time, why there's certain taxes, why it goes up and down every month. And I also want to say I am totally against the roundabout also. And I thank everybody for listening to me and seeing everyone here, and thank you.
Hi, everyone. Name is Steph Gordon-Glassford. I live at 23 Hill Street. A couple of things I'm going to comment on. I think it's pretty shameful that a Confederate memorial was erected in our public cemetery. There's a big difference between recognizing with the gravestone versus a memorial to be revered. Big difference. Also, yeah, it just doesn't have a place here. It needs to be taken down. A lot of people feel this way. A lot of people also are very much against the gun and pawn shop. I'm just going to keep things simple. I talk to a lot of people every day, and so yeah, there's a lot of things going on in town. We're the roundabout. I'm from Arizona. It's the land of roundabouts. It's one of the only states that has. They're everywhere, and sometimes they're great, and sometimes they cause more accidents because you have tourists who don't know how to deal with them. So just keep that in mind. So we had issues with that. So yeah, and I also think that we need to have stronger tree ordinances. I'm seeing antique trees being permitted to be cut down, and I think every situation, if it's rotted, it's diseased, it's causing issue, fine. But I've seen some trees gone down that should not have been cut down, all for parking spaces and this and that. So anyway, yeah, that's my sense.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a couple months since I've been here, so I've got a couple things I'd like to address. My view comes from my previous time.
Name and address.
Laura Jo Smully. I also live at 17 Pivot Rock, Unit 2. As a former city employee, as a former planning commissioner, and as a former city council person, my views come from a lot of experience working with the laws of the city and working with people living here. So let's get started. Vacating land. Back when I was on the council, I talked about this, and I still believe that the city should never vacate land. It should only be sold at a cost commensurate with its value to the person who wants the property, especially if it's going to be used for any type of commercial use. It should not be free. It should cover the value of the land, and it should also pay for the actual costs of filing for the land transfer. The city should not be paying that and giving that away. Second thing, I know we have lots of controversy about the pawn and gun shop, but my particular view on that is, why was he allowed to put up all his signage before he has a CUP? I know you can't answer me back, but I certainly hope that he's being cited every day for his 24-hour period of having erected signs without permits. The Cemetery Commission, I am really disturbed by the fact that somebody can just buy a couple lots and erect the artwork / memorial of their choice. Does that mean that I can buy a couple adjoining plots and put up my personal favorite artwork of my choice? Whether it's a memorial, memorial to somebody who's not buried there, it's not a headstone, it's not a footstone. Anything that's a memorial or an acknowledgement of a group within the United States, that should all be handled within the appropriate committees. And if we don't have a commission to deal with that, perhaps it's time the city stops and considers establishing a commission that will govern this type of structure, this kind of monument. Finally, I do have, from many years ago or several years ago, all the video and all the pictures I've taken about how difficult it is for differently abled citizens and visitors to navigate the sidewalks and roads and parking spaces in this city. I am happy to bring them all out. I'm happy to start posting them again. I'm happy to talk with you all about it. But something needs to be done at a fundamental city level. Even the approved HDC stamped concrete, if you are on a knee walker, I have video footage showing that it is virtually impossible to travel smoothly on those sidewalks. I have video footage of me struggling to get out of my SUV back when I needed to use walkers and canes, and it's tough, folks. Let's get with the ball.
Good evening. I'm Faith Shaw. I live outside the city limits, but I do a lot of shopping and a lot of volunteer work in the city, and I love Eureka Springs. I can't really add any factual information because everybody has pretty much brought up my points, and I wasn't going to say anything, but a dear friend said, if you show up and you don't say anything, they don't know how you feel. I have been held up very seriously at gunpoint, and then I heard about the break-in in Fort Smith, and I'll be honest, frightens me. I really, personally, and I don't know anybody who's in favor of it, and I'm really glad that it was brought up that the sign went up before any kind of approval. And no one is saying anything disparaging about the owners. They are great people. That is not in question here. You can drive to Walmart and get a gun. You can drive to Berryville and get a gun. You can get a lot of guns in Carroll County. I really don't think that's the image we want for Eureka. And forget I just said image. I think it sets a very dangerous precedent, and I'm kind of begging you all to turn it down. Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Ron Stout. I live at 321 Hummingbird. My family's been associated with Eureka Springs, lived here from the 1930s. As far as the precedent about a gun store in town, I don't think they had gun stores. My father told me stories. He used to go to the hardware store and buy dynamite to blow stumps and slug mice and stalactites out of caves. And I suspect they probably bought the guns when they bought the dynamite. So I think a gun store would be more of a benefit to the town than anything. And as far as the talk about the ADA Act or whatever in town, I'm almost as disabled as you can get, and I have no trouble getting around Eureka downtown. I find a way, I make a way. It's never affected me. Thank y'all.
My name is Mark Mattmiller. I live at 32 Eureka Street. I've lived in Eureka Springs for 22 years, and I've worked as a realtor selling property in the historic district for 20. During that time, I've seen a lot of individuals and businesses come and go. It's a cycle that's kept a lot of realtors in business in a small area for a long time. I've attended numerous planning commission meetings on behalf of clients applying for CAPCs, and I've seen them run professionally and not so much. My concern with the CUP application is that it wasn't placed on planning agendas stating a specific use, therefore folks in Eureka were not given the opportunity to express their concerns. It's my understanding the applicant received a business license for a sporting goods store before the planning meeting, but instead installed signs for Eureka Gun and Pond, which is false advertising, so I tend to question anything about the business from now on. I'm not against guns or gun ownership. I have several in my home. People who want a gun can easily get one. Growing up in the Delta of Southeast Arkansas, I often rode my bike down Highway 65 with a .22 rifle or a .410 shotgun stuck through the basket before I could legally drive a car. I probably killed more deer and dressed more squirrels and rabbits than anyone in this room. And I was often paid by field hands who took my bounty and paid me with a six-pack of beer, which I immediately hid in the rice well to keep away from my dad. But times have changed. We all see the news and we're aware of what's going on in our country. The bickering between party lines continue while the incidents increase. Do we want to invite the possibility of more crime in our town? Are we adequately staffed to confront any problems? I think not. In 2018, a drug and rehab treatment center based in Laguna Beach, California, moved into town. Today, we have more homeless on the streets than we've ever had before, and you can't make me believe there's not a coalition between the two. Did anyone question what would happen when that moved in? It's gotten to the point I lock my office door when I have customers to keep them from coming in, interrupting, asking for money. I dealt with a lady last week for 30 minutes, and 2 days later saw her downtown panhandling tourists outside of the annex. It's a situation that has no easy answer but needs to be addressed. Is a lone pawn shop in town a setting duck for a robbery? We need to be careful of what we approve, and it can affect the property values and the character of our neighborhood and town. City council people are elected by the residents of Eureka to protect the best interest of the town and its citizens. An individual who has chosen to live outside the city limits and wants to start a business in town needs to respect the opinions and suggestions of the people that live and pay taxes here.
David Parkman, 11 Gabriel Circle. This isn't a gun issue. City Council, your job is not to decide based upon your feelings on guns. It was not, the Planning Commission did not do their due diligence. They purely base their decisions upon their personal bias against firearms. This is not only a zoning issue. There's no zoning codes against pawn or gun shops in Eureka. In fact, there's been a pawn shop next door to McGee Jewelry, vintage jewelry. I made a pawn there Thursday. He wouldn't give me a ticket. He just had me write my name on an envelope and my phone number, and I pawned a ring for $105. So there's been pawn shops here. Despite what the city clerk said on the record and in the paper, he had a permit from the city in the historic district, which actually has an ordinance against pawn and gun. Now, I've heard this is not a constitutional thing. Yes, it is. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Interstate Commerce Clause. Congress may deny business, not city councils. If you deny him that right, yeah, you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit, an expensive one that could be appealed all the way up to the Arkansas State Supreme Court, because it has nothing to do with your bias against guns or for guns. As far as violence against guns, I have a bullet hole in my leg. Would you like to touch it? I will let you. Grew up in Little Rock. Got shot standing in a movie theater when I was 17 years old. This isn't a gun issue. People are making this a gun issue. If you don't like guns, don't shop at his store. It's that simple. Democracy is the foundation of this republic in which we live. We operate under free commerce and free enterprise. The best way to vote in free enterprise is with your pocketbooks. Let him take the risk. Let him be successful. Let him fail. If you don't like his business, then don't shop at it. Let him fail. He takes the loss. He has to pay the money and repay the loans. If he's successful, great. He pays taxes on the most regulated small business in the nation. Gun shops are more regulated than anything else, including the dispensary we have here, which is not government regulated and is illegal under federal law. They can't even put their money in a bank. And we're over here worried about a guy who's going to pay taxes, is going to have a great security system that's in Fort Smith. That break-in took place through a wall, of which that is not possible there. If that gun shop would have done right, they'd have put their guns up every night, and it would have taken 40 seconds. All of what you've heard here is pure personal bias. Your job as a city council, if you look it up, is to grant him the right to have business where he is zoned to do so. Let him pay taxes. Let him fail. Let him succeed. Not to say, oh, I don't like guns. I don't think anyone should own one. Or, we don't need guns in this special little community of ours. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. There's a lot of businesses in town I don't like. You know what? I don't shop there. I don't go to their restaurants. I don't go into their businesses. That's how you vote.
Good evening. Pat Matsoukas, 5 Mountain. The Planning Commission said no. Your job is to support the Planning Commission in their decision about this issue. It's very simple. Planning Commission said no. You should follow Planning Commission's lead and say no. It's just a zoning thing. It is a conditional use permit to have a pawn and gun shop. If somebody's pawning something in town, they should be reported. Here are all the city people that would need to know that somebody's pawning jewelry and you can turn it in. Your only responsibility is that. I wish you luck with this decision because all of our lives depend on your ability to keep us a town. Yes, tourism is our business, but we are a town. Terry remembers when there were grocery stores downtown. I remember when those things happened. When I first came here, we had everything downtown. Now, you have to have money to have a car to get to the highway, to get what you need, because we don't encourage any downtown. We've outpriced ourselves. You know, people come here on the 5-year plan, they buy something, they flip it over, they rezone it, they get a CUP, they sell it, they're gone. They've made their millions. Happy day. But then there's the rest of us that choose to be here because every morning is a blessing. When I wake up in the morning and I open the door and I hear the birds singing, that's a miracle. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear guns. I don't want to hear bad things happen. None of us do. So I encourage you to support this. Number 2, the water rate thing is crazy. 60% of our water is gone. Before it ever gets to us, we are losing it. We are paying for it. Everybody in this room is paying for the water. That is your fault, Butch. You were not looking forward. You're so worried about your damn roundabout that you haven't spent hardly 5 years ago, you were telling us that it was all going to be resolved. We were doing this infrastructure fee. We're going to have good water. We're going to have these pipes fixed. Not happened. How many thousands has it cost us now in 62 to put in the sidewalk? How much is coming out of the grant and how much is coming out of our city pockets? I haven't heard that part yet. There are a lot of things going on in our town that can make us great or make us not great. But when they put up that CUP thing for the gun shop thing, all it said, if you looked at it, was a conditional use permit has been applied for. It didn't tell us any information. They put a gun sign up there. I drive by there every day. It flips me out. It does. It flips me out. Anybody else flipped out?
No.
Okay. Good for you. Good for you. But you know what? I have grandkids in this town. I have family in this town. We all have the right, and I hope that you all will say no on this conditional use permit.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Eureka Springs.
Name and address, please, sir.
I'm getting there. City Council. My name is Scott Price, and I'm a resident and property owner at 5 Main Street here within Eureka Springs, Arkansas. I would like to address the gun and pawn shop on East Highway 62. As a citizen of this community, I fully support the opening of the new gun and pawn shop store. This store offers a valuable service by providing a safe and regulated place for individuals to buy and sell and trade firearms and other items. The gun and pawn store can benefit people who need quick access to money by providing opportunity for individuals to sell items they no longer want or need and get cash for them almost immediately. Pawn shops offer loans to customers who use their personal property as collateral. This means that people can get the money they need without having to go through a lengthy application process or credit check. This is critical service for members of our community who may need a temporary financial bridge in hard times. The store takes its responsibility seriously and ensures that all customers are thoroughly vetted through identification checks and reporting to the police department. This helps to promote responsible gun ownership and contributes to the safety of our community. Additionally, as for deterring crime, pawn shops can take several measures to ensure their safety. For example, they can install physical security gates that put a physical barrier between criminals and their property. Pawn shops can also make sure there is good lighting and visibility both inside and out so that employees and street traffic will witness suspicious activities in the store. Additionally, pawn shops are required by law to report their buyers and sellers to the local law enforcement authorities, which can help deter criminals from using pawn shops as means of selling stolen goods. Unlike open forums such as Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, and eBay, where criminals are known to sell stolen goods. I personally went by the location and introduced myself to the owner, Mr. Keeling Grubb, who for the past 6 years with his wife have operated Metal Fetters, a gift shop next door. I was impressed by his professionalism and dedication as a shop owner in offering this new service to our community. I was equally impressed by the multi-point surveillance security and how all firearms and valuables will be secured in a safe. I believe this store will be a responsible member of our community and will work towards a safer future for all. Thank you for your time.
All right, I believe that concludes our public comments for this evening. We'll go on to into our unfinished business. Item number 1 is discussion of water and sewer rates by Mr. Harry Meyer.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Meyer. Do you have comments?
Yes, I do. The Water and Sewer Department must support itself. It's like a business. It's a department of the city. We can't take money from other departments and put it in that department. So it does have to sustain itself. And yes, we got a lot of leaks. It took a while to figure out how many leaks we had and how much water we were losing. But on top of that, our water rates have gone up 2 years in a row, and we have not adjusted our rates to cover that. And unless we do, we're going to go bust. So I think, is our finance guy here?
I think Michael has prepared
I think he has, yeah.
A sheet for everybody to look at.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so what I prepared for you to look at in your packet, the water rate analysis that we had done by South Carolina, that the Public Works had done, was a little bit, had a lot to it. There were some assumptions in it that I didn't quite agree with and everything. So basically what I did is I went back and I looked at this, and what I'm showing you tonight is, if you will look on the first page down in the orange section, that is what it cost us through Carol Boone. That shows you our rates and what they've been from 2017 through anticipated rates of 2024. In 2022 and 2023, we had rate adjustments to where the cost of the water that we're purchasing has gone up a total of 25%. So it's costing us 25% more to purchase the water than it previously was. What I went back and did is I went through our utility billing, and I pulled out a residential account. I pulled out a small restaurant, a large restaurant, a small hotel, and a large hotel. And that's what this data is on the next sheet. If you look at it, this is a residence, has a water consumption of about 2,500 gallons of water a month. The bill is currently $59.26 is what the total bill is. When we talk about a rate adjustment, we're talking about just the water portion of the bill. The bill consists of a lot of things, which is your infrastructure and improvement, your sanitation charges, your trash charges, your clean water, and your sewer fees. The only thing that we're saying that we need to raise the rates on is the water portion of the bill. If we were to adjust how the billing is currently done and adjusted it up, the net effect of this residential water bill would be it would increase this bill by $4.71 for the month, is how much that would cost it to go up if we went up a 25% increase to match just what Carol Boone has passed on to us. The next one, if you look at it, this is a small restaurant, and these are actual bills that I pulled out of our utility billing. Their bill was $505.22. Their net effect would be $38.59 a month, is how much their bill would go up. Because we're just talking about the water, and it'll affect the taxes just a little bit. I picked a larger restaurant here in town. They use 53,807 gallons of water. Their bill is currently $1,062.94. It would have gone up to $1,159.98 for a net effect of $97. And then I picked a small hotel. Their bill was $23.93.88. Their bill would have gone up to $2,630.45, so it would have increased their bill about $200. Their water usage was 138,287 gallons. And the last one was a larger hotel. Their bill was $7,411.15. Their bill would have went up to $8,222.77 for an increase of $811. Their water usage is 486,834 gallons. So it's a lot of water. So if you go back to the first page, you'll see that the current bill. You see how much it would increase to, the dollar that it would increase, the actual percentage of what the bill is going up, and then what their overall annual increase would be. On this residential bill, for the whole year, their increase would be $56.57. Of course, as you use more water, the bill is going to get higher. The price per gallon gets higher. These are needed increases that we need because this is a bill that's been passed on to us. This is not us just coming out and saying, hey, we need to raise the water rates. This is an inflation that has gone into the water bill that is costing us now and that we need to pass on. As you can see, I also put on here that in talking to Carol Boone, they're looking at a 6.5 additional increase in 2024, where it'll cost another 6% for us to purchase our water. We'll find out that at the end of the year, and it would start in January of 2024. Yes, sir, Mr. McClung.
When we talked about this last meeting, Simon had spoken about the I&I was...
Terry, you might bring your microphone closer.
I'm sorry,
to you.
I apologize. Last meeting, we spoke about this topic, and the discussion was on the I&I. Is it staying the same? Are they making us take it out? What's the status on that?
As far as I know right now, there's not going to be any change in our I&I. We have pulled the bill so that we can go through it and look at it because there is a little bit of controversy of whether it's going to go away or not. But as far as that's concerned, I don't know on that.
Okay.
This is just, and if it did go away, that would be something that we would probably have to come back for. But this is just to match what we're paying for the water.
Right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
That we've been paying. And if you look, and in the blue section, this is our water sales through April. Through April, we had $296,000 in water sales. With this increase, it would have went to $370,000. So we're losing $74,000 just in 4 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is then the charges are going to be based on what's up here in the top in the green?
Mm-hmm. And to kind of go over that, and this is in town. This is going in town. Of course, the out town will be the double, but the in town is currently right now up to 2,000 gallons. You pay a base fee of $11.50. We're wanting to increase that by 25% to $14.38. If you're at 2,001 to 8,000 gallons, currently it's at $4.59. Which, in looking at this analysis, that doesn't make any sense because for the first 2,000 gallons, you're paying, $6.75 or $5.75. per gallon, and then you get a cheaper rate when you go to 2,000. So we're asking that be raised to fit between the 2,000 and the 8,000 gallon category. So that would go up to 7.37 per 1,000 gallons. And then on the 8,000 and up, it's just the 25%, so it's 6.04 up to 7.55. And one thing we had talked about that, there had been some discussion about, do we raise commercial rates higher than residential rates? I think we have a natural effect here, so we don't need to do that because your commercials, they're using a lot more water and they're paying more for the water than what your residents are. And so that helps with the infrastructure and helps with, the repairs and everything that need to be made to the pipes because of the excessive use. Yeah.
So the residents don't pay more for water than businesses, right? Just everybody.
No, everybody pays the
use.
same thing.
Right.
Yes. It's just all based upon your usage. Yes, sir. Harry.
We've just about, in a few years, we're going to have the last sewer bond paid off. We've paid 2 off in the last, 6 years, 7 years? We're trying to get caught up with, and that was all just for the sewer system. So once we get all this paid off, then we can start working on.
Well, actually, our water sewer bond is paid off. The only bond that we have left is our sales tax bond.
But that was for sewer.
Yeah, I don't know what it was through.
Yeah, that was for the sewer.
Yeah. But the one that we had that was a water sewer bond is paid off. Yeah.
Just want everybody to know that we are making inroads into that sort of thing.
Yeah. And there's also a misconception too among the public on our trash and sanitary fuel charge. Those are just pass on. Those are what we're being charged by Carroll County or Carroll County Solid Waste. We do not own the trash pickup service, so that's all from Carroll County Solid Waste.
What happens is they bill us, then we put it on the bill, then we collect it, then we send it back to them.
And the same thing with the fuel charge. It fluctuates
yes, the fuel charge.
Depending on what the fuel charge is. So I think it's going to go down possibly this month because fuel's gone down. But anyway.
Yeah. On a bill, and there's some things that are taxable and some things that aren't taxable, so we don't charge tax on everything. Your water in, we charge tax on it. Your sewer out, we don't. That's a state regulation. So you'll see on the breakdown here where I broke down these bills, there are some areas of the bill that are taxable and there's some areas of the bill that are not taxable. So the only thing that we're actually looking at raising is the water in, which is the water, the consumption of the water, and then that will affect the taxes just a little bit. Yes, sir.
Well, it is important to me on the water loss that we are incurring. And I mean, we went to work with Mr. Allen on this, and we were very aggressive with it. I remember because it about broke us with the meters and everything that we were trying to do to reduce the water loss. And apparently we lost somehow through there. We lost the battle. It beats the hell out of me how it happened. I don't get it. But, whether we were duped or what, I can't say. But it just irritates the dickens out of me. And so, we need it. I agree, the increases, but the loss has to be remedied. I mean, we've got to be aggressive somehow. I mean, we got to stay within our financial constraints, but we have to look through for whatever we can have, gifts or not gifts, but from the government, aid that we can get. I mean, it's just got to be done. It really hurts me to have to increase the rates on everybody when it looks like that we're not doing our job, and that's how it looks, and that's how I feel. I mean, it just And so, we have to take an aggressive stance and to fix these things.
Autumn, you have your hand raised? You're muted. We can't hear you. We're still trying to hear you.
Can't hear you.
Now, is that something, Ron, is that on our end or her end?
Well, until you get her fixed, folks, we live in a town that has steep hills, water tanks are here, we've got water lines that are 300 feet lower vertical. That's a pound, almost 2 pounds or a pound and a half per foot of drop pressure. So we've got 300 pounds pressure down there on Main Street. That's a lot of pressure. That causes a lot of leaks. They go out and fix leaks every single day nearly. Some are small, some are bigger, but we're going to have to replace some lines, but we're going to be stuck with some leaks.
Some of them become real obvious, some of them are not obvious because of our karst topography. The water does not come up and being shown. We are, and I know we've done this before, we've had hired companies coming in. We're talking about right now having a company from Fort Smith coming in and trying to do water leak detection. Another thought was this winter trying to get somebody who has a possibly drone with a heat sensor on the drone to be able to fly over Eureka and find that cold water spots this winter. So we're looking to see. We're going to get some prices, and we'll come back with the council on what it's going to cost for the company in Fort Smith, to see what we can find. It's not cheap, and there's no guarantees that how much they're going to find or where they're going to find it, because a lot of our water lines are 3 and 4 feet deep. Not
the last time we found a few.
Okay, Autumn, are you online now?
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're on.
Thank you. I did have a question about the water and how much we are receiving from our customers. Does that strictly cover just the water that we're buying, like gallon for gallon?
Well, because you've got a lot of that. You've got your a lot of the bills of the water department. So it's not just water for water. There is some things that are built into there to for like repairs, for your infrastructure, for things like that. It's not just a we pay $1.75, they pay $1.75. There are some other things in there because of the delivery of it, bringing into the house, and that kind of stuff.
So would there be any money that we could put in reserves for this infrastructure issue? Because I do feel that our residents and business owners shouldn't be paying for all our misdoings of the past.
Well, you have your I&I, which is for your infrastructure and improvement. If there's something, we can use that for if there was like when we used some of it for the huge water break that we had a few months ago. We did use some of that for that. But this is for you're buying the water, you're selling the water, and it's to support your whole water department. You're looking at paying for your employees, you're looking at paying for your taxes, for your insurances, everything. So that's part of what's built into this price of what we've been charging. What we're looking at doing is this is the rate that we have been charging for several years now, since I believe 2020 is when rates were last increased like 30 cents. And so we're paying the same amount And now the base rate is the same amount, and now the cost, what it's costing us, is going up. So we need that offset to be able to function the water department.
Thank you.
And we're just bringing this to you to look at. This is some analysis. With our feedback, we'll have to bring an ordinance before to actually vote on. So
This is just for council information and for the general public also.
Right.
Is there any other questions for Simon?
I have one more question. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So when we were running these numbers, just so I'm clear, you ran these numbers water per water, gallon per gallon, not with the missing or the leaking water, correct?
No.
We took the 6% out, and then now we're doing gallon per gallon.
If you look, we based it off of a bill of what was being charged to that customer for the water that was pulled into that residence, into that business, or in the restaurant or the hotel. This has nothing to do with leaks. This has nothing to do with the water that's being leaked or anything. This has to do with what we're charging to a customer for that gallon, and then what we're getting back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, any other questions from council? Mr. McClung?
Yeah, tell me again, Michael, please, on the 2023 actual water sales of 296, and they raised us 370.
No, what that shows is, okay, so when you go in and pay your water bill, and you pay the water bill, you pay the total amount. Part of it goes to water sales, part of it goes to trash, part of it goes to
Right.
This actual water sales is what we sold in actual just water, not in trash, not anything else, just water through the first 4 months of 2023. We sold, our actual sales were $296,728.
3 months.
Yeah, well, 4 through April, through the end of April.
Okay,
January,
4 months.
February, March, April. If we would have had this 25% increase that we're asking for, it would have brought in $370,000. So basically, we missed out on $74,000 worth of revenue.
We'd be out of the red. Because we're in the red right now, right?
We're at a we were at a very even break-even point, and it's diminishing.
So
and part of the problem is like what we're talking about with the infrastructure and things like that. A lot of the vehicles, they need vehicles. The vehicles are rusted out, and half of them don't work. We just had the one backhoe that we have. We spent $25,000 getting it fixed. There's other things that they need that have been for so long have been put to the side because they just didn't have the money to be able to do those things. And that's some of this money. Some of that money would go towards those kind of things in part of their operational budget.
Mr. McClung?
So we're building up 300,000 in 4 months. And so it's really kind of hard to wrap the head around it. We're losing 60%, 50%, whatever that ratio is, but it's I know it's large. So that's eating up our money right there, big time.
A part of it is because we're paying for that. We're having to pay for that water.
We're paying at a much less rate, but it's still with the increases and all. It's just
But the theory behind increasing this is passing along the increase we're not asking for anything more, we're just passing along the increase that has been given to the city from Carol Boone. I mean, we're paying 25% more for our water than we were in 2020.
Yeah.
So that's what we're asking for, is to increase the rate just to absorb that extra cost that it's costing us.
Yeah, I get that. I get it.
Rodney.
Ms. Lane?
I just want to remind everybody that yes, we need to raise the price or raise the rate to what we are paying. That only makes sense. But what's unfortunate is that we are paying for 60% that we are losing, which is basically our infrastructure budget. I mean, we should be spending all of that money that we are wasting with that 60%, over 50%, that is insane amount. And that should be our money that we are saving, not, you know, we can't keep raising these rates. We can only match what we're giving or what we are buying from Carroll.
As far as the loss goes, in an average brand new city, you're looking at about a 16 to 18% loss ratio. Ours is not over 60. It's ran in the 40s, between 45 and 50. It's currently just a little bit over 50. Holiday Island is at 75%. So it has a lot to do with, we've got a lot of old pipes, we've got an old infrastructure, and that stuff needs to be repaired and needs to be, you know, taken care of, and we do need to find these leaks. But we are not a city where, you know, just a normal city like us is not at 10% or 20%. You know, most cities that are a lot like us, they're in the 40s and 50%.
And it's also very expensive to find and repair these leaks too. I think our leak that we had on East Mountain, I think that was, you know, almost $20,000 to repair.
It was more like 40.
Just
40,
one
000.
valve was over 15.
$40,000 to repair that 8-inch line.
Yeah.
So it does get expensive. Mr. McClung?
I think it's that we're going to have to let the people know that you know that we need to start checking into another bond. If we're, you know, it may not have to be as big, but it may be. We're going to need some kind of financing revenue to remedy this. I think to get it where to get it back to the 16%. I mean that sounds like that's kind of the status quo nationwide. You know, to have that kind of a loss ratio, but to get it down into that, you know, if we've got to spend $1 million, then we're going to have to do it. Now we're getting into that position with what we have eliminated, as Harry has mentioned, you know, in the long-term cost that the city has. You know, we're getting positioned, and I think we probably are positioned where we can do that. And we pay the other bond off in 27, and you know, there's all kinds of things that are going to come up, but the sewer and water are the two biggest things we got to have.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that.
So you know, I mean, they're not going to like us, and we may have to make this increase, but we have to show them that we're aggressively addressing the problem, you know, that we're going to fix it, and we really need to fix it.
We're going to have.
Well, you know, already at Public Works, they've upgraded some equipment. The guys are really working hard.
Sure they are.
I think we've got a pretty good chance of, now that we actually know what the percentage of loss is, I think we'll be able to find more leaks, and you know, there's going to be more leaks every day is the problem. And it'd be multi-millions of dollars to replace.
Probably in the interim, in the very interim, we're probably going to have to look at financing this ourselves. We have made inquiries out about new bonds. Our bond people are suggesting to us that right now the interest rates are so high that it would not be a really good time to like go out with another bond right now. So, you know, if we could find some of these leaks, use some of our I&I money to fix some of that, and then maybe, you know, 6 months, a year, depending on what interest rates, so we might be able to look at a bond, you know, sometime in a little bit.
It takes time to get a project like that put together anyway, you know, and we know how things increase in
but we're trying to
cost
stay, I just want to kind of let you know, we're trying to stay
too.
on top of all that.
Sure.
And keeping those avenues open also.
Well,
so.
And we need to be, and the citizenry needs to be made aware of that, and so I think we need some more, you know, transparency in that respect, but I've said enough. Let somebody else speak.
want to bring up again, we talked about in our last meeting that there's vacation homes turn off their water and they aren't charged the basic charge or something when that's happening. And
I'm going to refer that to him because I'm the finance guy. I don't know how all
I
their
don't think we need to
procedures at the
decide
water
that tonight,
department.
but that's something I'd like to also put on the table to discuss for future use. If we're paying for the pipes running up to that house and they can just shut it off and not pay the minimum, I'm not sure that's a right thing we should do for our citizens. So I want that put on the table as well.
I agree.
All right, anybody else? That's a good solution. It's a step in the direction. You know, I think the biggest thing, and it's what Simon and I were talking about today, and I told him to go ahead and start getting prices on getting the people from Fort Smith to give us a price on leak detection. You know, we've done this once before, and I think we had somebody from St. Louis come out and do it, so we'll see what Fort Smith does and see what that's going to cost.
I saw 2 huge leaks get found the last time.
Yeah. Mr. McClung?
So how are we going to leave this with the people today? You know, what can we, what are you you're telling that we're going to work on the detection? That's what we intend to do. What are we keeping this on the table for every meeting? Is it that high of a priority, or is it every other meeting, or we're not going to look at it again for 6 months? I know we got to raise the rates.
Yeah, we're going to have to raise the rates. You know.
So we got to have an ordinance pretty soon.
Every meeting.
So that, yeah, I think she's right that this discussion has got to continue. You know, they're hard questions.
Where does the council feel on raising the rates? Do we want to prepare an ordinance toward that direction and bring that to a discussion?
I'm afraid we have to. I'd say we need to get an ordinance written up.
I think we do.
If that's a consensus, I mean, that's why we brought this to you, so you can see where it is and the public can see it. Nobody's going to be happy with this. And Terry, and you know, the people from the audience, I'm the least unhappy about our leak system and how much it's costing us. It bothers me a lot. Same thing with Simon. Now, what we're going to do about it, we find leaks almost, well, not every day.
Sure, I realize that.
So this isn't anything new, and it's something we've been addressing for 8 years that I've been on the council, and the council has been addressing it. So, you know, now we're getting back, and I told Simon to go ahead and let's get this leak detection started and see where we are. But in the meantime, I think we will need to do this, or we're going to keep getting more in the hole.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we have the city attorney draw up ordinance to raise the rates 25%.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion at this time? All right. Mr. Meyer made the motion and Ms. Green seconded to raise the rates to 25% as submitted. So, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved.
One thing I would like to add into this ordinance, last time we just said 30 cents or 25 cents. Can we put the breakdown, so that it's easier for everybody to know what the breakdown of the cost is going to be of the up to 2,000 gallons, the 2,000 to 8? Yeah, because the last one, it was hard to figure out what was actually going on in it. So if the ordinance, we can make it a little bit cleaner just by saying what it's going to be.
I understand our city attorney's good at numbers.
Mr. Mayor, perhaps we should publish a simpler chart like that in the paper so that the citizens that are not here can see it.
Okay. All right. That takes us up to our next item of business. Get a motion to discuss the ordinance vacating a portion of Main and Fuller.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay. I think we have Mr. Thurman going to address something here.
Mr. Bishop, Mr. Berry.
Bishop, I'm sorry. I need new glasses.
You do, yeah. Mr. Thurman and I are very different. Hopefully.
We sure are.
Bishop, you had hair.
I apologize. I apologize for that.
I did have hair in the 20 years I've been coming up here, but that is no longer the case. I finally gave up. We're asking for a vacation. This vacation is a little bit unique, and then it's all self-contained within one person's property. To address some of the comments I heard earlier, there were some questions about future uses of it. if my client, Ms. Athey, if she chooses to do that, she has a process she has to go through. If she wants to put a riding stable in, she has to go to planning commission. She has hoops she has to jump through. So I don't know that those are really relevant because they're not on the table. There's some questions about utilities. You vacating a street does not affect any utilities of any Carroll Electric or even your own utilities if there is an easement there. You are simply giving up the street or the ingress and egress easement. It doesn't change Carroll. You have no power to change Carroll Electric rights. And there is a Carroll Electric easement through there. I think the biggest thing, I also heard access. I assume you all know where this is. You have Breezy Point coming one way, you have Adams Street coming another. The likelihood of the city running a street through an old growth forest up the side of a hillside on a water drainage is pretty low, if not non-existent. So before my client could, this property is probably never going to be developed by the city. Before my client could cut any of these old growth trees down, she'd have to come before you. So it's really kind of, I don't want to say a no-brainer because you guys certainly have to think about it, but it affects no one in the sense that nobody's getting access denied. One of the most adjacent properties is outside the city limits. And it's just a property or street you're probably never going to develop. So we would ask that you vacate, and I think my client wanted to address a couple of points.
City Council, my name's Cecilia Athey, and like you said, I live, on 17 Breezy Point. This is a road that runs through the middle of my property. I don't want to see old growth trees cut down. Main with an E is a road. What is considered the road is actually a huge water runoff, which would affect all the properties beneath me if it was ever to be developed, as well as the road at the bottom. There's lots of wildlife through there. There are trees in that forest that are 200 years old that do not need to ever come down. I'm simply asking that this be vacated so I don't have to worry about there ever being any kind of development through this forest. I don't want to see the trees go away. And I never thought this would be an issue, but it has certainly arisen as one. And that's simply why I'm asking for this, because I don't want to lose the trees. I don't want to lose the forest on my hill. Neither do my neighbors. Nobody wants to see that happen. Thank you.
Okay, council members, any thoughts, questions, Mr. McClung?
Yeah, I sent you an email, I think, or a text or something about this. And if Public Works had looked at it and, what their thoughts were on it as far as the closure, how it affects, the Crosses have some property there. There's John Mitchell. Do those lots have access? Are there from another way? That's my concern is and I understand that the right of way can be rough but I don't want to I don't want to landlock anybody. That's my concern.
Of course, Mr. McClung. And I will say Washington Street comes up through at the bottom of there. It feeds into Oregon. I mean, it's all gravel and dirt, but it is somewhat cleared out. All those properties do still have access, even if this was to be vacated.
This doesn't change anyone's access. The road actually terminates at Breezy Point.
I'm referring to lots that are up in there.
They're all her lots. All the lots that would around the vacation.
That adjoin that, but is that giving up a potential access to lots?
No, sir.
Because that's the most apt place to put a road. That's what I'm saying.
No, it truly, this is the terminus of the road. So she's at the very end of the road. Everybody else would still come just like they would before.
Simon, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear the question, Mr. McClung?
Yeah, so I believe that Gwen Bennett's property might be cut off by this vacation as well. She has some property over there, some lots that are for sale right now. But also the gentleman that owns that property right across the street from 17 Breezy Point, he had a house fire, lost a house a year or so ago. They couldn't get up Breezy Point, and he has approached me about building a road to Dairy Hollow. So I don't know what his plans are on that right now, but we've been in discussion about it, to use the right-of-way to build a road down to Dairy Hollow to connect that. And with that right-of-way, so we have a dead-end water line on Breezy Point right now. We can essentially reconnect that water line in with the water line on Dairy Hollow and create a loop over there to create better water quality for everybody up in that area, plus increase the development potential of that area in the future.
So I think the question is, in your opinion, is this this closing and vacating this section of the street, will that adversely affect
I believe it will.
Public Works?
I believe it'll affect property owners that surround that, such as Miss Gwen Bennett.
I'm sorry, I have to address that. We are not asking for a vacation of any utility easements. This is simply an ingress and egress. You would have the same rights to access utility easements. It wouldn't affect anyone in that. That's simply incorrect.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. McClung?
So if I understand Mr. Bishop correctly, that an ordinance, if we were to vacate, the ordinance could be written to where that we would retain utility easements across the street, the full length, access to install water lines, sewer lines, whatever.
That's correct, and you also have the right under eminent domain if you didn't. So, but yes, that's correct.
Mr. Mayor?
So that's true about the utilities, but what we need to remember too is we got to have availability for people to get to the property.
I understand that.
So that's a
We can't
separate
cut
issue.
somebody off.
Right.
That's right.
And nobody is cut off because you already have Adams and Breezy Point coming to the same place.
He says,
The two lots that are for
our
sale.
statesman says that it's cutting someone off,
You'd have
so.
to point that out because there's no water line that would be affected by
I'm not talking about water line, I'm talking about access.
There's no access that would be affected, because if
No,
you look
this-
at our application, it shows the termination of the street, and these are all contained already within our property as terminated.
I'm taking Simon's word for it.
I'd love to see that.
well-
I think it's false.
And gentlemen, ladies, what the two properties that are for sale that are behind the yellow house next to the substation is what he's talking about. That is Washington Street. They have access. It runs up. Washington Street runs alongside the side of my property. It has gas lines from Black Hills Energy in it. So they have access there. What we're asking for does not cut anybody else's lots off whatsoever. There is still Adams Street, which runs along the opposite end of my property, that is still open and can be developed into a road at some point. Or the city can choose to widen Breezy Point.
All right, just a moment. We'll get Terry. What's going on over here?
It's a secret.
I know. Okay. Are we getting it clarified? We got somebody speaking.
Trying to get clarification
I think,
from the attorney on this map that I have, yes.
All right. Are you getting clarification?
Well, working on it.
Okay.
I can tell you, he asked me, the street we're talking about vacating is not open. Those lots they're talking about have access from Adams or Breezy Point or Oregon. So we're not closing any open street, nor are we cutting anybody out.
And my question for Mr. Bishop is, and he says those streets are already there.
Those being Adams and Breezy Point.
Right.
And those give access down to the Mitchell property and the Cross property down there. That's my concern, is that no one loses access. That's what we cannot.
Okay,
We
Simon?
can't.
So I'm sorry to cut in again. Sorry, sir. So Miss Gwen Bennett is here, and she just stepped up and whispered in my ear. She said the easiest access is off of Fuller Street. If you cut off her access from Fuller Street, she's going to have to go all through the woods to get out, because of the terrain is very steep as you go to the west, and as you go to the east a little bit, it's the slope down the hill is a little bit lessened. So she's concerned about being able to access her property there.
Mr. McClung?
Mr. Mayor, what I'd like to do, in all fairness, is to put this on hold, and I think we need to go have a site visit. I really do.
I agree. You want to make a
I'll
motion?
second that.
Yeah, me too.
Not tonight,
Yeah.
No,
but
too many tips.
I think we need to schedule something.
Okay, make a motion.
I make a motion that we put this off to the next meeting, and in the interim, that the mayor schedules a site visit where we can all go and take a peek.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. McClung made a motion to have a site visit. Mr. Alvanzino had seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'll get with you all and we can schedule a site visit. Get taken care of.
Thank you. It's nice to be before you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that
He did that.
brings us up to our next item of business is discussion of the TAP grant cost approval for the sidewalk.
Motion to discuss.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Green made motion, Ms. Myers seconded. We discussed this a little bit last week. We do had a change order, brief change order in there because of the height of that retaining wall, and that was a little bit more work than what was anticipated with some utilities and sidewalks and the road work going in through there. You notice in your packet, I think we've got a $9,000 total change order. Basically, it was for demolition and disposal of an existing head wall, and then due to the location of the existing head wall being in the path of the new installation, the project was going to be delayed until we can get this thing taken care of. So that was the change was for $9,000, and then I had a 14 calendar day extension on there. So, Mr. McClung.
Yeah, I was noticing yesterday that they've extended the trench towards the funeral home, and they're going to have to do some more retaining wall in there apparently.
No, well, they should be, I don't think so. Simon, I think all the site retaining wall should be completed.
So thanks for calling me up, Mayor. So the progress on that right now, I reached out to Thompson last week to get a progress update and figure out when those traffic lights were going to be down. They said due to some delays they've had, that it would be the middle of this next week. And I posted on the Public Works Facebook page that they're saying the middle of this week, which would be Wednesday. But I really believe it's going to be the middle of next week at the soonest, because they started forming that last section towards the funeral home. As of today, they only had one half of the forms in place. They still need to pour the concrete and let it cure out before they can backfill it. So
my question on that then is that was part of the original
yes, sir,
design. That's not an additional add-on.
Right. Yeah, so the state wouldn't allow them to trench the whole thing at one time.
I see. Okay.
Because of the concerns of having the road slide. So
when I saw that yesterday, I thought, I hope this isn't another
no
afterthought.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
That's
sir.
all I needed to know.
So, and then the traffic light hopefully will be done by.
I hope the end of next week. They're saying this week, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay. All right. Any further questions? I can get a motion to approve this $9,005.49.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. All right, brings us up to our next item of business is a resolution for a public hearing to vacate a portion of alley between lots 5 and 2 of the Riley and Armstrong Street.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is the sidewalk between, it goes down from Spring Street down to Center Street, that's next to the Galleria, or I don't know what they call it now. Is it still the Galleria?
I think so.
And Rowdy Beaver
10.
Annex or whatever that is. Part of that building sits, there's an alley there, and the building sits on the alley. 15, encroaches 15 feet?
13 feet.
13 feet onto the alley.
Well, that sounds expensive.
Yeah. So that's what this public hearing and the vacating the alley is all about. So what we're needing is a resolution to set a public hearing, just like we had before on the vacating the alley. So all the documents are in, so all we need is a motion to...
I'll make a motion that we assign the resolution a number and read it into passage.
Okay. Get a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Assigning, vote first. Terry McClung,
Abstain.
Harry Meyer,
Yes.
Melissa Green,
Yes.
Autumn Slane,
Yes.
Steve Holofield,
Yes.
David Avanzino.
Yes.
Assigning resolution number 843, a resolution to set a public hearing date for consideration of vacating an alley between Block 5 and Block 2 of the Riley and Armstrong survey. Whereas the property owner of Lots 1 and Block 5 of the Riley and Armstrong survey has submitted a petition to the City of Eureka Springs to vacate an unused section of an alley between Block 5 and Block 2 of the Riley and Armstrong survey running north and south. And whereas the signed petition was submitted to the council in regular session on June 12th, 2023, along with a copy of plat showing the streets, alleys, and adjoining lots. And whereas Arkansas Code ACA 14-301-302C provides that the City Council shall by resolution fix a day for the hearing of the petition filed to vacate a street or alley. And whereas the law further directs the city clerk to give notice of the meeting by publication once per week for 2 consecutive weeks in some newspaper published in Carroll County, Arkansas, having general circulation by the city. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that the petition to vacate the above described street is set for hearing on July 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the auditorium of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and the city clerk shall give notice of this meeting by publication as set forth by Arkansas Code ACA 14-301-302C.
All right, that brings us up to our next item of business is appeal of the CUP denial for the gun and pawn shop by Eureka Gun LLC. A motion to discuss.
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
David.
Mr. Avanzino made the motion and Mr. Holyfield seconded. I think we have the chairman of the planning is here. Susan Herman here. Susan, you want to give us a little bit rundown what the Planning Commission?
Application was made, paperwork was filled out. It was brought before planning as a special meeting. I believe it was May 23rd. Vote was tied, and therefore it now is on your table.
Okay. Any discussion from the council members?
Are we going to wait till after they have their word, or did you want us to go ahead and discuss?
Well, we can go ahead and have the owner, if you will. Go ahead. Thank you, Susan. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. My name is Will Kellstrom here on behalf of Keeling Grubb of Eureka Gun and Pawn. As you guys just heard, we are appealing the May 23rd Planning Commission denial of a conditional use permit application for gun and pawn shop, which is allowed by condition in the current zoning district of C2 contemporary commercial. I want to start off by talking about what this issue is not. This is not an issue of whether anyone thinks that other people ought to have guns. It's not an issue of how everyone interprets the Second Amendment or how anyone feels about it. It's not an issue of mass shootings, and it's not an issue of whether there should be guns sold in Eureka Springs. This is a zoning issue, and I'm glad that that was said several times tonight, because that's really what it is at the heart of this issue. We should be answering one question. Is this use compatible with the uses around it? So I want to tell you all a little bit about how the business is going to work. Mr. Grubb plans to sell guns, gold and silver, and sporting goods. The guns will be mostly high-end collector-grade firearms. This is not a pawn shop where you're going to see a bunch of old junk and equipment laying around advertised outside. It is a pawn shop in that Mr. Grubb will buy anything, but they're not going to be sold in the store. He has arrangements with nearby flea markets to sell things other than guns, gold, and silver. The point I'm getting at is that this is a nice, clean, established, legitimate business. I went into the store myself earlier today. It's a very clean store. It has nice presentations. It looks very nice in there. It's a nice business. It's got 10 cameras all around at all entrances and a big TV screen that you can see from the window that lets you know you're on camera. The security system is pretty intense there. It's got a glass storefront, a clean interior, and surveillance cameras. It is a retail business just like many of the other businesses around it and the stores in Eureka Springs. So the question is what I just described compatible with the surrounding area? This is a retail use. I can't stress that enough. It's no different than a jewelry store, a kitchen store, or any other store that sells expensive items. It doesn't generate excessive traffic, noise, or light pollution, drainage issues, or really any negative impacts from a zoning standpoint at all. It's a retail business. So the Eureka Springs Zoning Code gives the Planning Commission a list of factors to consider when they're looking at conditional use permits, and I brought those with me tonight. It reads, the following considerations shall be discussed in relation to each proposed use. Now, I'm not going to read through all of these because there's a long list of them, but I will read through a couple of them. Whether it would affect the population density, that clearly doesn't apply. It's a retail business. Whether it would create or excessively increase traffic congestion. No, there's plenty of parking. It's not an auto-heavy business like a drive-through restaurant, of which there are plenty on Highway 62. Whether the proposed use will create a drainage problem, whether it will reduce light and air to adjacent areas, whether it will create a parking issue. This is not a big auto-dependent business that's going in downtown. There's plenty of parking. Whether it will cause traffic congestion near the site, whether there's adequate utilities, whether there's adequate sewer, whether it's adequately screened and buffered from adjacent properties. There's a ravine between this shopping center and the nearest neighborhood. I'm losing my papers here. The Planning Commission didn't consider any of that. On May 23rd, the conversation focused mainly on two things. One being that pawn shops and gun shops somehow increase local crime, and two, that gun stores just don't belong in Eureka Springs. As for that first topic of discussion, I would simply argue that that just isn't true in general, but it's particularly not true here either. I just talked about earlier how heavy the surveillance is back there, how many cameras there are. In my experience, security cameras tend to discourage crime rather than increase it. There was a lot of talk from members of the public about the potential of a break-in at this establishment and guns being stolen. Well, let me tell y'all, Mr. Grubb does not want his guns stolen either. He has shown me his back room. It's got a safe big enough to put me in. So the security's pretty tight there. I mean, this issue of whether there's going to be break-ins and increased crime, I just think that's simply not true. So that leaves the second thing that was talked about, in that gun shops just simply don't belong in Eureka. As I went over earlier, CUPs have factors that you have to consider under the zoning code. None of those were considered. The Eureka Springs zoning code says that gun shops are allowed by condition in C2C zoning districts. So on one hand, you have the Planning Commission saying there shouldn't be guns in Eureka at all, and on the other hand, you have your zoning code that says they're allowed sometimes. Which one is it? To deny the permit on this reason, that we don't want guns in Eureka Springs, when the code clearly outlines a situation where they're sometimes allowed, that's just arbitrary and capricious. That is not a permissible reason to deny a permit like this. I would also like to point out that cities in Arkansas are preempted from enacting regulations pertaining to the transfer of guns. When you pass an ordinance that says it's conditional only in one zone, and then state that you don't want guns anywhere, that's regulating guns and saying that you can't have the transfer of them anywhere in this city. So, a bit on the legal aspect of it, but really at the heart of this, it's a zoning issue. This is not an obnoxious use. It's not a gas station. It's not loud and noisy. It doesn't create noise or light late at night. It doesn't create a parking problem or a traffic problem. It's shielded from the neighbors by a deep ravine and heavily forested area. It's a retail store. I mean, that's really what it is. It's not a question of whether we like what he's selling. It's a question of what his effect will be on his neighbors in the community. So thank y'all. And Mr. Grubb is here if you have any questions about how his business operates, and he would be happy to tell you about it. So thank you.
All right, counsel.
I do have some comments. I'm going to stand before you today and voice my strong opposition to the establishment of this pawn and gun shop within our town. Eureka Springs, with its tight-knit community and modest population of roughly 2,300, has long been a haven of tranquility and harmony. Allowing such a store to open its doors here would not only disrupt our way of life, but also pose significant risk to the well-being and safety of our residents. Let us take a moment to examine the crime rate statistics for small towns in Arkansas, similar to our own town. While Eureka Springs has been fortunate to enjoy a relatively low crime rate, we cannot overlook the potential consequences that may arise from introducing a pawn and gun shop into our community. According to recent data from the Arkansas Crime Information Center, small towns in our state have seen an increase in certain criminal activities related to the presence of pawn and gun shops. While correlation does not imply causation, it is essential to consider the potential risks and the impact on our community. For instance, neighboring towns that have allowed such establishments have experienced a surge in property crimes. Burglaries, thefts, and robberies tend to increase when pawn shops are present, as criminals may target these locations to offload stolen goods easily and quickly. These crimes not only lead to financial losses for individuals, but also disrupt the sense of security within our community. Additionally, the presence of firearms associated with gun shops may contribute to an escalation in violent crimes. It is crucial to note that this is not to imply that legal gun ownership is inherently problematic. However, studies have shown that the easy availability of firearms can lead to an increased risk of gun-related accidents, suicides, and domestic violence incidents. These are issues that we must carefully consider, especially when thinking about the well-being and safety of our community members, including our children. Moreover, small towns that have allowed pawn and gun shops have reported social and economic consequences. The visibility of individuals pawning their personal belongings can create tension and division within the community. It is essential to maintain the close-knit nature and sense of trust that defines Eureka Springs. Introducing a business that relies on the pawning of personal possessions may disrupt that delicate balance. Furthermore, the reputation and appeal of Eureka Springs as a tourist destination may be compromised if we were to allow a pawn and gun shop to operate. Visitors seeking a peaceful and picturesque getaway may be deterred by the presence of such a business, impacting the local economy and our small businesses that depend on tourism. Considering the crime rate statistics for small towns in Arkansas, along with the potential negative consequences on our community's character, safety, economy, I do urge you all to vote no on approving this CUP.
Mr. Meyer?
In 2017, the Federal Ninth Circuit of Appeals ruled that there is no constitutional right to sell guns. That decision was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the court let it stand. So we do have the ability. And I just hate to allow a CUP when somebody's already put up their signs without the permit to do so. It's just an insult. That's all.
I say something? Just a moment. Go ahead, Ms. Slane. You're muted.
You're muted.
Okay, am I here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any laws saying that they cannot operate legally? So are there any laws that says that there cannot be a gun shop go in this commercial zone?
They have to have a conditional use permit,
Okay, and that's it?
as far as I know. Is that true, City Attorney? Okay. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else have a comment?
Oh, Mr. Grubb.
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, Mr. Grubb.
I've had a lot of discussion with...
Please, state your name.
I'm Keelan Grubb.
Okay.
I'm the owner of Eureka Gun LLC. There's been a lot of comments. We were even investigated for selling guns. It was found to be illicit, that it was just somebody had made that, but the city did come investigate us, that we were doing pawns. They came out. We offered to give them the last 14 days of all of our camera footage. They didn't want it. And we were investigated for not having a sign permit. The sign permit, Mr. Meyer, turned out that we don't have to have one. There was a sign permit for that whole center. We were also licensed as a business way before that sign went up here in Eureka as Eureka Gun and Pawn. And I don't know if you all are aware of that, but we've done nothing to violate anything other than get licenses and try to do everything by the book and go overboard for what we're trying to put in here. And it's just been nothing but miscommunication, and it's kind of disheartening.
Excuse me. Madam Clerk, did you issue a license for a business license for a gun and pawn?
Not a gun and pawn. I issued a sporting goods license, and I even wrote not a gun and pawn on it, so there was no confusion.
And the name of that business is Eureka Gun and Pawn, sir.
So I can name my business whatever I want to.
Okay.
Right, you could. You can name anything you wanted to. But the fact that you just mentioned that we had a business without or put a sign up without a sign permit is not correct.
Without a business license for that sign.
We had a business license for that sign because that's the name of the business. That's what our business license is issued in.
Not by the city.
Yes, sir, by the city. By your daughter, I believe. Is that not your daughter?
I'm sorry, I'd like to be referred to professionally. I did issue a business license for Eureka Gun and Pawn LLC for sporting goods, and I wrote not gun and pawn because I was told that he wanted to order kayaks. I did tell him that he needed to get his CUP before operating.
I see. So you're not in compliance?
Yes, sir, I am. I have a sporting goods license in the state of Arkansas. I'm selling nothing at the time. Right now, we have dehydrated foods. We have knives, shovels, tents, everything you need to go camping with. I mean, I don't know what difference we are other than, truthfully, a flea market. Other than we're trying to get a license to buy and sell stuff, so there is accountability for what we're doing. We can't buy anything from a person without filling out a buy ticket. We have a copy of their driver's license. We have their name. We have their address. We even get their tag number. We take a copy of their driver's license. I feel it's kind of invasive of people to get a thumbprint or fingerprint from them, but that's the only thing we don't do if they want to sell or pawn something to us. And currently we're doing that now if we buy something. And we can buy stuff. We're no different than a flea market here in town at this point, other than we're wanting to sell firearms.
Ms. Slane? You're muted.
Thank you. I've worked with the Grubs several times over the last 10 years, and every occasion has been completely suitable, and I simply just don't believe that he would operate a business that was not doing all the right things and all the right rules, especially when it comes to the guns. Even his neighbors have said that they would love to have him a continued neighbor. I checked out his hours of operation. They're normal office hours. This is not like a late at night situation. This is not grab your things and go pawn it. I don't believe that all of our residents are retired and wealthy. So I do believe that a lot of the people that are working in our town, in our restaurants, in our hotels, need this, sometimes need a loan. Sometimes this is the only way that they can do it. And I don't believe gun sales equal crime. And I'm not going to stand in front of this business.
Mr. McClung?
I frequent pawn shops. There's times that things that I want that I think maybe I can find them there at a less of a cost. I'll shop there. I also, when I do, I always look and see what firearms they may have. There might be something that I might like that, you know, that would be collectible. You know, and I'm sure that the statistics that you're getting are correct, David, but, you know, I go to Berryville, I don't see a lot of crime there. I don't see any trouble with their pawn shops. Green Forest, I don't see any trouble. Rogers, I don't see any trouble, you know. I mean, they're good, clean businesses. They are heavily regulated. I've talked to law enforcement people, not just here, but others that, you know, that it's just, it's not that, it's just a business. That's all it is. It's a business.
Mr. Myers?
Well, what we're talking about is a conditional use permit, and our planning commission decided not to issue one for whatever reasons they gave, and if we don't want to back up our planning commission, denying a CUP because they have, we might as well throw in the towel. We don't need to override our commission. They work hard at this.
I would like to add the planning commission.
Please speak into the microphone.
Alderperson Meyer, with all due respect, the planning commission did not deny this on the factors enumerated in their code. They denied it on personal beliefs. And to have a zoning code that says that pawn and gun shops are allowed sometimes, and to deny it on the reason that we don't want them anytime.
Sometimes is...
Okay, but what I'm hearing is that we don't want gun shops anywhere in this town. And that is arbitrary and capricious. And I say that being a person who does not typically come to these meetings and throw out legal jargon. I try to resolve it through the code of the city and through reasonable and peaceful means, but I'm sorry, that's just, it wouldn't hold up in court.
Mr. Myers, do you have any comment?
Well, you know, they denied it this time That's a sometime. Get it?
I get it, but there are also council members on this council who are saying we don't want them anywhere. And that's what the planning commission denied it on.
Further comments? Mr. Meyer, Mr. McClung?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the application.
A second.
All right, Mr. McClung made a motion to approve the application for the CUP for the gun and pawn shop. Ms. Slane seconded. Any further discussion? All right, get a roll call vote.
Autumn Slane,
Yes.
Steve Holofield,
No.
Terry McClung,
Yes?
Melissa Green,
No.
David Avanzino,
No.
Harry Meyer.
No. I'm sorry, the application failed. Thank you for your presentation. All right, that brings us up to our next item of business. I'm going to wait a few moments and let some people leave.
We're losing our audience.
Yeah.
Huh?
We're losing our audience.
We still got a few.
And somebody should tell like Jane and the other gentleman to use our elevator. It's really hard for them to get on the steps.
I told her.
Oh, okay.
I told her
Hey,
last
John,
meeting.
he said he got around to that problem.
Okay, but Jane doesn't.
Jane used to come down.
I told her last meeting.
All right. Our next item of business is the Civic Plus New City website proposal.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All right. I'd really like to thank our finance director, Michael, and our city clerk for doing this. No, I'm not telling you to come up.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you.
I would just like to set the record straight. Michael formed this packet, and I'm giving him all the credit on the success of this website. I just want to be on the record that Michael Akins helps me a lot in the office, and we appreciate you as an employee of the city.
Thank you.
And I'd like to go on record noting that Michael Aiken did a wonderful job on putting this together. So
Yeah, thank you.
If
Thank
you would like to make your presentation, sir.
Okay.
Start off.
So we've had a lot of requests, and we're going to end this on a great note, guys, because we are so excited about this. We can hardly stand it. We had a meeting with all of us, and we zoomed in, and we were looking at all this, and Ida and I were trying. We had our poker faces on because we wanted to get a good deal on this, and Jacob blew it all. He was so excited, he just couldn't contain himself. But we reached out to Civic Plus. Civic Plus is the organization that hosts websites and builds websites. They are the organization that, as of Fayetteville, this is Fayetteville. They do Fayetteville's website. What they have put together for us is a brand new website that will function a lot like Fayetteville's. If you've been on Fayetteville's, functions a lot like theirs, but it's more geared to a smaller town like ours. The packet that we gave you, I know it has 40-something pages and it has a lot of information in there, but we did want to highlight some of the stuff. On page 3 of 43, which is the third page of the packet, Civic Plus has been in business for over 20 years. They have 12,000 customers, and over 900 employees. The reason why we bring this up, and this is so important, is the website that we have now was designed, written by somebody else. Now they're gone. Nobody knows how to work on it. Nobody knows how to do anything with it. So by having the backing of this Civic Plus organization, we're going to get the customer service. We're going to be able to change it when we need it. We're going to be able to add things to it. So we think that's very important to have that backing and stuff. What they offer two designs. One is the premium design and one is the ultimate design. Of course, we're going to go with the ultimate because it'll better suit what we need. On page, I think it's 4 of your packet. It's page 6, or I'm sorry, it's page 6 of 43, if you'll see that down at the bottom. That starts showing you all different kinds that we can use. There are different type of layouts from drop downs. There are different types of the website that we can decide. We can decide what we want. We can decide how we want it to look. We'll put pictures of Eureka Springs on it. We can change those. And all of these apps are compatible with your phone. So one thing that's going to happen is whenever you're on your phone and you pull up the Eureka Springs website, it gives you a phone version so that things aren't hanging off the left or hanging off the right and you can't get to the drop down and you can't get to this. It has a customized feature that brings it into a mobile app so that you can see all of the functions that the app has for us. It's going to be tailored to meet our needs. What we have is we have a basic website, and then we have modules that we put into this for the different things that we want this website to be able to do. The website is ADA compliant. It's easy to use. It has a lot of tools. We have the hosting of the Civic Plus will be hosting it. We'll have 24-hour, 7 days a week customer service, so that if anything needs to be changed or updated, we'll be able to get that. There's a lot of features to this. I mean, we could sit here and talk about it for a long time. Some of the things that we were impressed with was the calendar. We can put things on the calendar that are going to happen in Eureka Springs. We can put festivals, we can put parades, and we can also put all of our council information on there. We can put our agendas, we can upload our council meeting notes. And the good thing about this website was it directs you in a way to where, say you want your council notes, you don't have to go to the drop down and go to this drop down and find the council notes. There's 3 or 4 different ways you can get there. You can search it, you can look at the app, or you can look at the calendar, and it'll all bring you back to the same place. So it has a lot of unique features to it. You have your meetings and agendas can be on there. It's going to have all of our municipal code is going to be on there. All of our resolutions, all of our ordinances will be on there. There's audit trails, history logs, so that everything that you're due within the website will be tracked and will be kept for future, for anything that we need. You can conveniently access it from any device. There is a lot of avenues in the basic program that will be a very good step for Eureka to go. If you look back on the first page, just to kind of hit some of the highlight of the cost associated with this, the website, the basic website for Eureka Springs would be an annual fee of $3,568 and a one-time setup fee of $850. We have looked at these modules that we want to add into this. They're the modules for permitting, business license, code enforcement, fire and safety. Then when you put these modules in, like for permitting and for business license, this is going to bring a lot of these items that we currently have now that you have to go to the courthouse and write a check for or something like that. You're going to be able to do all this online. You're going to be able to pay for everything online. You're going to be able to pay for your business licenses. There's a lot of interaction as far as like when code enforcement, when they're out and they see something, they can upload their documents, their information to the website. Fire and safety, the fire marshal will be able to use this. So when he's out doing inspections and everything, he'll be able to come in on the back end of it and put all the inspections into it. Like I said, you'll be able to make all your payments on there. It also has GSI integration, which is if code enforcement is out trying to figure out what a property, who owns that property, They can pull up all the information on that property. It'll tell them the property lines. It'll tell them whose property it belongs to. It'll tell them if the taxes have been paid, all that kind of stuff. The ICC is the International Construction Code. And that
International Building Code.
Okay. That is going to, like right now, we have to buy books. We have to buy hard books. This will be an integration where every year it'll be updated and it'll be put on the website. Some of these things you think, well, maybe we don't need those. But the thing about it is if you have all these plugins and somebody gets on our Facebook and they want to look up an ordinance or whatever, they can type in that search. It's going to bring up everything that's in municipal code. It's going to bring up everything that's been resolutions, everything that's ordinance, and then it's going to bring everything that's in the International Building Code. It's going to bring up everything that person could research about that project, and it's going to bring it up for them to be able to look at. Some of the other things, there's a laundry list of things that it's going to do. One of the things that we thought was a really neat thing was, so you put in all of the building code stuff, you put in the code infractions, you put in all these other things that have happened with a property, and that property owner decides to sue the city. All you have to do is there's a module in here to where we would go into it, it would print out an entire packet to send to our attorney that will have every communication that person has had with the city, every form that they've filled out, every inspection that's been done, every picture that's been taken. It'll be all right there in a very concise package for our attorneys to look at. One thing that we did, like I said, Ida is going to jump in here in just a minute. One of the things that we did is we went back and forth a little bit. We had taken out, I had told them that we wanted to stay around an annual budget of around $15,000. So we took out a module that was for planning because we felt like we could utilize some of the other modules. But in talking to planning, we really feel like that needs to be in there. We went back and forth with him. I got him down a little bit more. So we're looking at an annual fee of $17,500. He's going to charge us $2,000, a little less than $2,000 more for an additional module. It's about a 6 to 12 week implementation that it'll take them to build it. We'll be totally in on the design for it. It'll be exactly what we want. Our department heads will be able to access their departments to put information on the website. We'll be able to link it to CAPC. We'll be able to link it to parks. They can go to the website and find out anything they want to know about Eureka Springs. Yes, sir.
A couple things. One, so you're looking at adding just a couple of thousand.
Yep.
On the annual, is there additional setup? Is that
yes, it will be. It'd be that $83.50 plus $1,200 because that's how much the setup fee is on the modules.
Okay, so we're looking at about 24, 26, 27.5 on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And then 17.5 annually. Okay.
Yeah.
Who? I understand that they will upgrade everything that they can on an annual basis or what have you. Who does the input for the city?
We will have different administrators for different things. Like Kim will be able to be an administrator where she can go in and put parades. She can go in and put things that are happening in the city. Simon will be an administrator where he can go in because it has some options. One of the things that we looked at was a feature that we were looking at for texting, Text My Gov, where if there was a accident on a street, we could text everybody that signed up for it and say, hey, stay away from Spring Street right here for the next 2 hours because we're cleaning up an accident. That was going to be $2,000 to set up and $5,000 a year just to maintain it. This has that in it. So we're getting a lot of the FOIAs. There's a FOIA piece of this that's in the basic website where people will be able to get online and file for their FOIAs and things like that. So there's a lot. I mean, we could get a presentation to show you kind of all the things that it's going to do, but it's very robust. I spoke with Pinnacle today, which is our IT provider. They happened to be in the office working on Kim's computer. So I showed them this presentation of what that they were going to do because they don't host any websites. They said that Civic Plus was A+, that they would give them a very high recommendation. They said for what we were getting for the money, that it was just amazing. So they were really surprised. And you can see in this packet, there's a couple of places, like if you look on page 41 of 43, you'll see that originally they were looking at $40,000. We got them discounted. We went back and forth with them a lot on the negotiation on this to get it down as much as we possibly could.
I understand you'll have different administrators to put in things, but there's going to have to be someone that puts in, the community updates and that kind of stuff.
Ida will be doing a lot of that.
Then someone has to be overseeing all of it to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Correct?
Probably that's going to fall under Ida because she's going to be, and Ida, you step in here and talk.
Ms. Slane, you got a question?
I just wanted to say thank you for the last 2 years. This is something that I've harped on about security and open communication with not only our residents but our other department. I think this is absolutely perfect. I'm so excited. Thank you for everybody's hard work.
Wait till you actually see it. You're going to really like it.
I just know it. Thank you. I'm so excited.
To answer your question, you can have an admin access that sees all of the logs, and you could put multiple people. Every action that you do on the website is going to get logged. So no one's going to be able to go in there and make modifications, and no one's going to know. It's all logged, and Civic Plus has that on their servers. I also want to point out, I went to the International Municipal Clerks Conference. Every municipal clerk that I talked to highly recommended Civic Plus. North Little Rock actually converted to their communications director, decided they wanted to go a different path, and the whole city wants to go back to Civic Plus. There's places like West Memphis, Jonesboro, Heber Springs, Jacksonville, Sherwood, Sheridan, Hot Springs, Russellville, Clarksville, Van Buren, Springdale, Cave Springs, and Bentonville all use Civic Plus, and they're giving us a good deal since we already have our code book on there.
No problem with the program, and what you guys have done is like what it says is excellent, and I'm certainly tickled. I just know that somebody has to be responsible.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm concerned with. That it's not the log only picks up what people do. Mm-hmm. You got to make sure people are doing it.
A lot of this, Ms. Klein, will be on the department heads too. They'll have the access for their department, and they'll be responsible for updating it too.
Sure.
Ida will be taking care of
I would say more than likely we're going to have admins of probably me and probably Ida. And then what we do is we go in and give permissions to things. So like whenever Simon logs in for Public Works, he's only going to be able to address Public Works.
Sure.
He's not going to be able to address police and fire. So, and then we can monitor what he's doing through our logs and through our transactions. So they have it really kind of drilled down so that you don't have anything rogue on there, you don't get anything bad on there. So there is going to be a little bit of administration. We're not going to have one person, like we're not going to have to hire somebody just to administer this.
I was wondering about
so
that.
This, and the other thing, in talking to Jake, I had a long conversation with Jacob and Kyle. He's still here. I had a long conversation with them today, and some of the things that like Jacob has been complaining about is that he is so drowned in paperwork that he basically needs another person to help him just to do the paperwork. This is going to eliminate that. So he's going to be able to handle his department and all the things that he needs to do just by using this. Same thing with Kyle. It's going to take, and like with the website that we have now, We have old forms on there, so if people get on there to fill out a form for planning or something, it's an old form. It's not even our current forms. We can't get our current stuff on there. So this is going to rectify some of that stuff. We are going to use the same portal that are the same person to process our water bills. So they'll get on here, they'll get on our website, they'll go to the water. It will kind of stay the same because we already have that set up. But as far as like paying for business license and things like that, they will go to the business license module. They'll be able to walk through the steps, and they'll be able to go through the payment portal there, which is this small payment portal. They'll be able to go there and make the payments and pay for things and not have to come to the courthouse and fight for a parking space and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, good. Mr. Meyer?
Ida, are you going to have to load up, enter all of those ordinances and?
No, so they had talked to me, they can help with the conversion process to get those over, because we already have Muni Code for our Code of Ordinances, our code book. Basically, if you open our code book, you'll see there's tabs that we don't use. We'll just add a tab or two there for the ordinances and resolutions, and then they can get them from our website. And then we already have them all scanned in on our website, and I can I can do it in bits and pieces for some of the ones that are kind of won't convert over or whatever.
Just want to make sure you have.
It also had a really neat function, and Ida was pretty impressed with this, and I'll bring it up and she can talk about it. But as far as uploading her minutes, uploading her agenda items, and as far as Kim being able to upload the videos, so much simpler than what we're having to do now. So a lot of that things, it's going to make things more efficient, and it's going to give the public a lot more information and a lot more things that they can do on our website.
Any other questions?
I'm excited.
You're not as excited as Autumn is, though.
You won't get any Chinese porn.
She's got a big old grin on her face.
So
how do we get this ball rolling?
Okay, so what we would kind of like to do is just get an okay to move forward with you guys, and then at the next council meeting, will we have to do anything? I mean, because this is within. We have to do anything because this is within your approval.
No, we'll probably have to make mid-year budget adjustments possibly, but I think what we need is a motion from the council to go ahead to.
I'll make a motion.
To move to accept this proposal.
I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal proposed to us tonight.
Second.
And move on.
Including the increase.
Including.
The increase.
Yes. We don't.
Did I hear a second?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Holyfield. Okay.
We don't come a lot of times and go, wow, we're really excited about this. But truly, Ida and I are very, very excited. And we appreciate your support in this, in the fact that you approve it. Because Ida and I have worked really, really hard trying to get the numbers down, getting something that we could afford, and getting the most for our money. And I think this is going to be a great move for Eureka, and I really think it's going to help us out. And I appreciate y'all's support. I really,
Compared
really
to the CAPC website, you guys got a bargain.
Yes, we did. We did.
Well, and I want to say too, I see Kyle back in the back. I don't know if any of y'all have gone and looked at the planning and HDC website lately. They've done a remarkable job of upgrading that, and Kylie started it, and I think Kyle's kind of put it together. But this is going to help everything as far as the administration goes.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen that website, go look at it. It's a lot different than what it was 5 years ago. So and this whole thing will bring us back up into the 22nd century.
Kyle works super hard on his applications. He is very thorough. He gets all the documentation. This will significantly help his workload, along with mine for business licensure and alcohol beverage licenses.
Is that why he's so skinny?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. We got to vote.
Thank you for a wonderful job, Mr. Finance Director.
Need to vote.
Good job.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. All right. I think that concludes our business for tonight. Agenda setting. All right, how about,
I got something, I don't know if it needs to be an agenda item or not, but, parking meters, I'd like to know where we are. I ran into people 3 times today trying to do the app.
trying to do what?
The app.
Parking meters to do the app and.
Do they not know how to do the?
Well,
We'll bring that up, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what direction to go with it, other than it just, it's still a real problem. And I know our revenues.
Our revenue is up and people are using the app and we have.
Our parking revenue is up?
Our parking revenue from the app's up,
From the app is up, but
yes.
overall it's way down.
Well, we just got new parking heads taken from this parking lot and put on the streets to keep the ones that weren't working.
Right.
Yeah. So we're removing all the ones on the city parking lots. And those are going to be by app only. The rest are still coin operated on the streets.
Okay. Well, you might just.
I'd like to talk about it more.
Beg your pardon?
I would like to talk about it more on the agenda.
Okay. We can do that. Anybody else?
Yeah. I'd like to add the parking district on Upper Spring Street. There's been no stickers made or anything.
All right, I think Kyle just left, but we're getting in that process. We're getting close.
Getting close? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to talk about it. I can fill you up and fill the council up next time.
Probably ought to just mention it next time.
Okay.
I have something.
Okay.
I would like to talk about doing an ordinance to assign a dollar amount or maybe a procedure to vacating land.
I agree with that.
Especially alleys right here in downtown.
Yeah, alleys, everything.
All right, we'll put that on. All right, anybody else? All right, council comments. Mr. Alvenzino.
Can you start on the other side for one time?
Mr. McCarthy, I'm going to throw it back.
I'll be happy to start, David. Thank you. I have nothing.
Mr. Meyer.
I'm wore out. I was going to say something, but it's been a long night.
Okay, it has been. Ms. Green?
I want to thank Ida and Mike for their hard work and the rest of our staff. We really got a good employees in this town, and I appreciate them.
Mr. Holyfield.
CAPC workshop this Wednesday at 5 o'clock here. As you mentioned earlier, we still have 2 vacancies on CAPC, so we need people to apply. And also, this is Pride Month, so happy Pride, everybody.
Okay. Now we're back up to you.
Thank you. That was quick. Most of y'all cheated, but so thanks for mentioning Pride Month. And I will be attending my first Municipal League conference, I believe, on Wednesday morning, so I'm looking forward to that down in Little Rock. And I do want to thank Ida and Michael, Kim, for all the hard work that you guys are doing, as well as all of our employees throughout the city. There are things getting done, and it's good to see it, and it's good to see that people are actually starting to say some really nice things.
Don't forget Miss Lane.
Ms. Slane.
I just wanted to say that Blues Weekend was really awesome this last weekend. We had a great turnout, and the Crescent and Basin lined all that up, and they did great promotions, and we had a lot of people really enjoying having the blues back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we got some fun things coming up. We've also, on this 14th, we have the DAR's flag dedication ceremony at the Basin Park. I'm not sure what time that is, but also on the 15th, we've got at 3 o'clock, we'll have the Crossfire Car Parade. The Crossfires are in town for four or 5 days, I think. The 15th, we'll have the 17th Annual Ozark Mountain Soul Festival out at the farm. And on the 16th, Music in the Park featuring date night from 3:30 to 5:30. June the 17th, Music in the Park featuring Jesse Dean, again from 3 to 5. And then on the 23rd through the 25th, Thunder on the Mountain Mustang Days. They're back in town. On the 24th, we've got Music in the Park with 96 Miles, and they'll be playing from 2 to 4. And then on the 24th, we'll have the Mustang Car Parade at 4 p.m. And then also, this is going to be real exciting. We've got the 28th, June 28th, around noon. Eureka Springs is welcoming the reality TV show, The Great Race, to our cities. There'll be over 250 vintage and classic cars coming through our town, having lunch here, and they'll be competing for a $50,000 purse. And they're going across the United States, and they'll be arriving approximately around 11:30, and will stay. Probably the last car will leave around 3:30 because it's a timed event, and they'll be coming through about a minute apart, coming in from 23, going down Plainer Hill, going up Hillside, and coming down Spring Street, and then back up to the end of the Ozarks.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How did that come about? I thought the CAPC knocked that in the head back before the end of the year.
Well, we got them going. We found some additional money and got it going.
Oh, good. Well, wonderful.
So
they're
going to be in town.
Good.
I think
Good deal.
CAPC went ahead and started funding that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. And it's exciting. I think we're going to see a lot of people in town for that. And there was two advanced people who came through town the other day and said they were not aware of Eureka Springs and how wonderful a community this is and a wonderful town. So while we may not get them, and we won't get them next year, we'll probably come back. They'll come back through Eureka again. So it's going to be a great event.
Good.
So, anyway, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Stick around. Thank you, y'all.